Let's go to the hotline, Max. And on the hotline, I don't know if we can handle the supernova of Texas high school football nerddom that is now assembled. I'm Greg Tepper, and that's Matt Stepp, and on the phone is the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer himself. It's the great Craig Way. Craigers, how are you?
You know what? You made me feel instantly better when you added the word nerddom right after you said supernova. It's like, come on. And then when you said nerddom, like, now I feel at home.
Yeah, so now you're no, we're not just shining your apple. We're just telling you, we're telling you the truth. Obviously this is an exciting time for us. Texas high school football season and college football about to kick off as well. But this is also an odd time, and we discussed this, I believe, on Monday about how Hurricane Harvey's kind of cast a pall over the entire state and kind of tempered the celebration that usually is Texas high school football. I'm interested in kind of your perspective on what we're seeing with the cancellations and the long-term effects of Hurricane Harvey on the season, which is obviously so secondary to what's actually important.
No doubt about that. And again, Tep, you made a good point about it and how we were discussing it on Monday, which, by the way, because of the local show I do down here in Austin from 10 to 11 on Monday, and the one and only Greg Tepper is a regular contributor on Mondays, I might point out, from 10 to 11 here in Austin. But when we were discussing it, we just said we all feel a little bit strange. I understand us. And I had Todd Dodge in studio with me this morning, the coach at Westlake, and we were talking about that. And, of course, he grew up in Port Arthur, which is just getting body slammed today by it all. And he has friends and relatives back there. And I think he made the point that we all feel maybe not guilty, but we feel a little out of place in talking about things when there are matters of far greater import going on down there. And I think everybody understands that, because no matter what line of work you're talking about, we happen to be talking about a game. We happen to be, visiting about high school football. But no matter what your line of work is, when I walked into the office building today, I saw some people talking. I went past a oil and gas production company thing, and they were talking about whatever shale deposits or something like that. Anything, I think, would pale by comparison to the difficulties of what folks are dealing with on the Gulf Coast, all the way up through the Golden Triangle. And I was texting with a radio friend of mine who is in Beaumont today and lives and works in Beaumont. I said, "How you holding up? You okay?" And his friend who does high school football down there, and he said, "We're okay. We're on the radio and we're doing our thing." He said, "I know it sounds weird to you guys." He goes, "Do what you do." He said, "We got to do what we got to do, and we appreciate all the help and the support and all that." He said, but everybody else has to go and do what they do also, and I think that's what we're trying to do here.
Of course, what you do best is you call high school football games. I guess you do college, I guess. Is that still going on
something
for you?
Like that.
Yeah,
put it this way, I got a coordinators meeting that I need to get to this evening. So yes, I'll be there getting ready for Texas and Maryland. Yeah.
So we do want to take a look at what you're going to be calling on Friday night as part of the Fox Football Friday, Fox Sports Southwest football days in Texas. But I do want to ask you kind of on an overview, when you look at Texas high school football for this coming year, the overwhelming feeling that I've gotten this year is that this feels like a big reset year. I think that there are a lot of I think in my bold predictions, I think I predicted only 2 teams would repeat as state champions, which would be rather rare. Do you get the same feeling that across the state this is a year where we're kind of hitting the reset button and it's a little more wide open than usual?
I do, and here's the other thing. I usually get that feeling, and maybe this is because of the way it happens calendar-wise and numerically, I usually get that feeling when we start a brand new alignment, because there's new non-district schedules. And in many cases, there's new district schedules of playing teams at different times, and it seems like the time is right for that to happen, those winds of change blowing when you start on the first year of a realignment, of an alignment. We're not. We're in the second year of the current alignment. So it is a little bit different like that. But that old P word, parity, I think, comes into play. And when you look down the list of usual suspects, and I know you've got Judson number 1 in your preseason, top 10 poll, and I think the AP poll has Allen. I mean, so look, take your pick, whether it was Judson or Allen or Katy or Steele or Blake Travis or whoever it might be. We're talking about a lot of the same usual suspects, but we're shuffling it around as to who our favorite or lead choice might be to win that. And I think that can go in virtually every classification. I mean, I look at 2A. You have to think things are different in 2A D2, if only because Rashad Paul's not there anymore. So
some guy never lost a game.
Yeah, so it automatically clicks in it. Well, this has got to be different, and maybe it will be, maybe it won't be, but yes, you definitely get that feeling.
We're talking with Craig Way, the voice of the Texas Longhorns, the voice of Texas high school football here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the show at #TFToday. Step, you got a question?
Yeah, I always wanted to know from Craig. I never got a chance to ask at coaching school. You get more fired up about calling a high school game versus a college game?
They're two different things, Matt, and I love them both. And that's the whole thing about, I've got 4 kids, and people say, which one which of your kids are your favorite? And my answer usually is, I don't have a favorite, but I can tell you which one I don't like the best out of the 3. I can tell you no, I'm just kidding. Right. But hey, and they all look at each other. The 4
all the parents are like, yeah,
it's you, not me, right? They're completely different in a number of ways, and they strike my visual and oral and intellectual senses differently. On Saturdays for a Texas game, there might be 100,000 people in the stadium. I don't know that there'll be quite 100,000 this Saturday for the opener of Maryland. A, it's at 11 o'clock in the morning. B, there was a survey done on ticketing at UT a few years ago, and it was that the second largest group of season ticket holders outside of Travis County was Harris County, which of course we know is the greater Houston area, and they're dealing with it. So we may not see the attendance may be down a bit, if only for that, if for no other reason. But anyway, on a given Saturday, a college football environment is different from a high school environment. Yeah, there's football going on the field. The crowd element and vibe is different on a Friday night, and we've all been there countless times, more times than any of us could possibly remember, being in a historic stadium or a brand new stadium or a small stadium or whatever. You get that sense of town, community, neighborhood feel with the high school. It's a completely different vibe with the college thing. Now, and I enjoy them both for different reasons, and that's part of the reason why I never wanted to stop doing high school football games on radio or television or talking about it or whatever, or doing Scoreboard Live, because it's a completely different experience. It's just like, I also give the answer when people ask me. I'm originally from the state of North Carolina, and so they say, well, which is better, pork barbecue or beef barbecue? And I say they're completely different culinary experiences. One's beef, one's pork. These are different culinary experiences, but I eat them both up.
And so now you're going to feast this weekend, starting at 8:30 p.m. A historic broadcast on Fox Sports Southwest as part of Texas Football Days. You will be on the call for the Converse Judson Rockets hosting the defending state champions, Lake Travis Cavaliers. I know you're not in the prediction business, but I do want to ask you, when you look at this game, what's the overall vibe that you get from what we're going to see when these two 6A Titans clash?
Having visited with both coaches, and I know you got to hear some of the stuff as well, I get the feeling that in addition to the fact that a game one is for feeling out and understanding what you got and where you need to go, and they enjoy and respect playing an opponent of that caliber so that you get an early revelation as to what you have and how far you need to go, it still, in those kinds of games, quite often comes down to playmakers. Mm-hmm. And they both have them. As we know. We know, obviously, Julian Williams, what he's going to be able to do, and we also have a very clear vibe of what Lake Travis is able to do. Everybody is real interested to see what Matthew Baldwin does, because do you carry out that tradition? Do you carry on that tradition? I do a top 5 every day on my program, and one of the top 5s I had today was top it'll be top 5 players to watch in a given weekend. But I said, given the fact that nobody's played a game yet, it'd be top 5 players from the greater Austin, Central Texas area to watch going into the season. And I listed Matthew Baldwin number 2, and some folks would say, well, wait a minute now. What about Garrett Wilson? He's dynamic and explosive, can do so many things. We already know that about Garrett Wilson. He's a little bit banged up. Is he going to be able to contribute? But we already know what he's capable. We saw what Matthew Baldwin did in one game, really, in extended time against a good opponent with what he did in that crazy epic game with Steele last year. But the rest of the time, he's backing up Charlie Brewer. So the mantle was put on his shoulders. What can he do? That's one of the big questions I have going into this matchup with Judson.
And then, of course, you will also be on the call. I don't even know if you're going to sleep because then you'll go from there. And then an 11 a.m. kickoff on Fox Sports 1 as the Tom Herman era gets going in Texas. They take on the Maryland Terrapins, a team that is not, I don't think anybody's going to mistake them for a powerhouse, but I think they're dangerous in the right circumstances. When you look at the Texas versus Maryland game, what stands out to you?
A, sleep is overrated. B,
agree.
Especially in the fall. I've gotten kind of used to it over time. What stands out to me about Maryland?
Yeah, what stands out to you about overall the game?
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, everybody's really anxious to see all of the headline stuff with what Tom was doing with this football team in the spring and into fall camp was about trying to put together a bigger, faster, stronger, tougher football team. That was the overriding theme. He joked about having fat defensive linemen, and he joked, many a truth said in jest, and he talked about not having enough leg strength from his guys. And he had Yancey McKnight, his strength coach, really working very, very hard with those guys. So there was all of this stuff about the building blocks. And so that's why there's this great amount of anticipation to see how much of a difference was there physically, talent-wise from last year. Coaching, folks can go any number of ways with that. But how much of a difference will have been made with the physical makeup of this team? That seems to be the most interesting point of conversation with regard to that. And I think that's what everybody's curious to see. And, of course, the quarterbacks, because he hasn't said, chisel it and granite, Shane Buechele is my starting quarterback for every game and blah, blah, blah. He didn't even say he was the starting quarterback for Saturday. What he said in his news conference Monday is he's the starting quarterback today, Monday. If he has 3 bad days of practice, we'll have to evaluate, look at differently. And he said, but I do that with all positions. So those are kind of the things I think that stand out. Maryland, by the way, has good defensive ends. They're unknown, certainly. They've got some question marks at the quarterback spot and with their offensive line. But it is when you're a brand new head coach and you're starting off with a football program, this is test enough for them, and that's what they'll have on Saturday.
He is Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. You will be hearing his voice all weekend, starting Friday night at Judson, where I will see you there, partner. I'm very much looking forward to it, and let's party, my friend.
Who gets the first shot at Renner?
Oh, we'll draw straws for that.
Okay, works for me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Craig. There he goes, Craig Way.